Welcome to Retrained Search, the podcast, where we lift the lid on what it's really like to work retained, discuss the stories we've gathered along the way, and give you all a peek behind the scenes of our amazing community and how they're getting ahead. Okay, everyone. Hello and welcome to the Retained Search show. And we're very excited today to be joined by a guy that's always on the other side of the mic and put him in the hot seat. And that is the very famous, the very wonderful Ben Mina. Nice to have you here, Ben. Welcome.
Excited to be here with you guys. And it is kind of funny being on the other side where I'm like, oh crap, now I have to answer all the questions. I have to be ready.
Yeah, you do. And you've just experienced our not very structured, not very organized setup. Yours is super structured and ours is not.
I don't know when I have to stop saying we're very new to this podcasting.
That's our excuse.
About a year and a half now.
I mean, if you guys want a good laugh, I tell people constantly, I'm like, I have no clue what I'm doing behind the scenes. It just all happens.
Yeah. I mean, okay, good. I'm glad it's not just us. But you do sound very crisp and much more like Luther, as Jordan just said, than we do.
I call Ben the Luther Vandross of the podcast game with his phones.
I mean, it's one of those things like when people think of like, I'm going to go do a podcast, like they like go out and buy like a $3,000 camera, a $400 mic, this and stuff. And like, this is like a $70 mic that I've had for, actually, I think it's down to like $50 on Amazon now. So like, you don't have to go with the crazy equipment to have a podcast. You just have a conversation, hit record, and let's go.
Good, because that's exactly what we do. I'm glad that you've just said that. But Ben, like we've spoken loads of times, we've done bits and pieces together, we've talked on a podcast together, but I don't know hardly anything about you, about your business, and about what you actually do. Please, will you tell us and everyone else, what does your business focus on and what do you do?
So it's kind of funny. A lot of people, because podcasts is so visible, they're like, aren't you a professional podcaster? And I'm like, no, podcast doesn't pay the bills. Podcast doesn't even come close to paying a bill. That's why I have the recruiting to actually pay the bills. So I've been recruiting I am right now on 19 years in the recruiting seat. Combination of started off.
You don't look old enough, if you don't mind me saying.
I'll take that. Thank you. But I started off as one of those large agencies where in the US, they get you right out of college, put you in the training, you go and grind away and, you hit the top of the charts and you realize you're still not making any money whatsoever. So from there, I went internal for quite a few years. I really focused on the government contracting world. And for everybody, I don't know if you guys have like GovCon over in the UK, but government, we focus a lot on Department of Defense and all the different federal agencies around the U.S. federal government. So fast forward a bunch of years internal, about 2018, I think it was, maybe 2017. I can't even remember. I'd have to go back and look at LinkedIn. But for years of grinding, never took a vacation for I think about 2 years, just absolutely like head down, working hard, super hard. And I was on my first trip overseas to France. And I got a call while I was overseas. And they're like, hey, Ben, we're going to have to let you go.
Oh, no.
And they're like, well, we need you to bring your laptop back. And I'm like, well, my laptop is with me here in France. They're like, well, you need to ship it right now. I'm like, well, are you guys going to pay for it? And they're like, no. But so like the phone call went a little farther and was just like, hey, you actually did nothing wrong. You're our best recruiter, but we have to let you go because we have to make a foreign government happy and they needed some collateral damage.
Oh my God.
So it was a bunch of stuff that I actually told the team was actually going to happen. And they're like, no, don't worry about it. And I'm like, well, this is going to happen. And it did happen. And it got flagged. It became like a little bit of a upper agency international story, like not a story, but like foreign governments were pissed off. And I'm like, this is exactly what I said was going to happen. It did happen.
No way.
So
can you tell us what it was that happened?
Not on a recording.
You don't want to get into any more trouble.
not on a recording, but it was just like, they're like, hey, you're collateral damage and we have to take you out.
Wow.
So my wife looked at me like, we're we're in Bordeaux, France at the time. I was like, well, we need to go get a glass of wine.
Yeah.
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 As one would do in Bordeaux, France. And she's just like, hey, we've been talking about doing it. Let's go do it.
Yeah.
Let's go start our own recruiting company.
Oh my God.
So,
That's amazing. What a story.
Can I
so,
ask the question that's on everyone's mind, Ben?
what's that?
What did you do with the laptop?
So funny part is like, I actually had to have a coworker drop it off. So once I got back to the States, a coworker had to drop it off because anytime in a lot of these like government agencies, if they get rid of you, you can't actually walk into the building. I'm like, whatever. Here you go. Here's a laptop. You can have it back. I downloaded all my resumes on there,
Yeah.
Yeah.
put them into an ATS.
Yeah. Yeah. Of course. Yeah. Of course. Wow.
Wow.
And so that's how it started.
That is how it started. And like we primarily focus on the government contracting space. Like we do stuff outside of government contracting, but a good majority of like since 2018 or whatever it is government contracting. And for those that don't know what government contracting is, like here's like the easy 60-second explanation. Have you like have you ever heard of a company called Amazon?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
They
And
knock on my door 3 times a day, Ben.
I get an eye roll. I get an eye roll. And then I'm like, have you ever heard of a company called Microsoft? And by then, like, you can literally just hear somebody, like, you can hear on a phone, like, their eye roll. And I'm like, did you know that both of those companies are large scale government contractors too? Some people say yes, other people say, like, no. And I'm like, that's why I use those two as an example. Picture this: the United States government, the Pentagon asked for some help to move the Joint Warfighter effort, the F-35 program, over to the cloud. So Amazon with AWS and Microsoft with Azure said, Mr. Government, we are here to help you out. We can help you do this for $9 billion. Heck yeah. So it ended up like both those companies won. So every single one of those Amazon employees working on that program, they're full-time Amazon employees, but they're actually government contractors too, because they're supporting a government mission. Same thing
Wow.
for Microsoft. So like the government contracting world is so big and there's so many different things that happen in it. So we primarily focus on that space, mostly around the DC metro. We've done a lot of work with like the three-letter agencies, the CIA, the NSA, and like all the different intelligence agencies also. We shifted a little more towards like the federal agencies, so we don't have to go chasing those super purple unicorns with full scope polygraphs to go do scary things that I can't tell them what they do. They don't know. Like, I can't. The job description is like software engineer, and then you're like, okay, you're working at the NRO. I have a good idea what you're doing, but I'm not allowed to know. But I have to go find you,
Mm.
Yeah.
and I can't even tell you where you're working.
Yeah.
Makes it difficult to take a brief, I suppose.
So it's one of those things like you have to like understand the conversation, and many times there's like a non-classified you know like request for work from the government, so you got to like look at that and get a good understanding of like what they're actually trying to chase or the supposed mission of the work and piece that together to go find the perfect person.
That's difficult.
It's difficult and fun.
And where are you based, Ben? Where are you based
So
now?
we're based in Richmond, Virginia, which is like right outside of the DC metro. Anybody in Richmond, Virginia will tell you that they're not part of Northern Virginia. I say it's part of Northern Virginia since there's so many people that moved down here during COVID. But prior to that, we were about eight years in Arlington, Virginia, and prior to that, Tampa, Florida.
My mum and dad
Oh,
have just come back from 2 weeks in Richmond, Virginia.
no
Really?
way.
Yeah. Yeah. Small world. My dad's best friend from school went to America to study American studies at college just because it meant he could go to America, and then met an American girl, ended up restudying and doing law, became head lawyer for Disney, and now has a ranch in Virginia. So they went to spend a couple of weeks with him. I know.
There you go. Small
Small
world.
world. Eh?
Very good. And I've got to ask you, Ben, while it's on my mind, I've just come off a call from a person asking me the same question. There's so much mixed activity at the moment in the market. Like, how are things from your perspective at the moment?
Uh, so am I allowed to say that I think a lot of people were super excited going into 2025? Like the market was really excited. There was a lot of like work happening. It right now is a market that I'm seeing certain sectors winning. I see certain sectors that are dealing with a little bit of a slowdown. I see certain sectors like, the sector that we primarily play with right now, we're dealing with a thing called DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency. So what they're doing is looking at all the contracts, and because of all the contract analysis and what they're doing and how they're viewing the contracts and what might be cut all of a sudden, a lot of companies are afraid to spend money on recruiting support. But at the same time, I also know that in my little bubble, everything's going to pick back up towards the end of the year because they are going to realize that the work still needs to get done. But back to what you were saying, I think it really depends on where in the market you are as a recruiter, what niche you're looking at as a recruiter. But the one thing I can absolutely say for sure, and it's really because of the podcast, and I live in a bubble because of the podcast. Every single niche, including mine, there are recruiters out there absolutely crushing it still,
Yeah.
no matter what the market conditions are.
Yeah, I agree. And tell us a bit about that podcast journey for you, because as we said at the start, those of you that don't know, and there'll be an audience, I think, on our side of the pond that don't know you as well as those on your side. Your journey from then starting something completely new from fresh to now being known more for your podcast than probably anything else. Can you tell us about that? How has that happened and why for you?
Why I'll be honest with you, like I was bored during COVID and I wanted to talk to my recruiting friends.
Yeah.
And I was like, let's do a podcast. And so I started a podcast to kind of chat with my recruiting friends. And
No way.
4 years later, this is where it's at.
And where is it at now? Like for those of you that don't, those people that don't know you, where is it at?
So right now, like I don't know what recruiting numbers look like for podcast episodes, but I would say about 85% of the downloads are US based. UK typically averages about 3% of my podcast downloads. Last year was about 170,000 downloads on Apple and Spotify. So,
That's
and
good.
Quite a few.
yeah, I don't know what's good. I just keep on having fun and sharing stories. And, what it really is just getting down to the human behind the recruiter and figuring out like where they've struggled, how they've succeeded, what they've done, like how they structure like their success. And it's really just, it's the human element, the story, and with that story of their success, a little bit of teaching behind the scenes. So
Nice. Yeah, I love it. What do you see? You must see so much, going through that process of getting kind of putting someone in a seat for an hour and asking them all those questions. You must see so many patterns and trends. And what stands out for you?
So, like, are you looking at overall or what's working in 2025?
Yeah, whatever you think's interesting and helpful to share.
My favorite stuff is just like, it's always the stories of where somebody had a struggle, figured something out, and it clicked. Or in reality, behind the scenes, it's the work ethic they put in consistently over time and came out the other side. Like a good example is Randy Stat. He 200K in debt, multiple loans. His wife just quit his job because they had a brand new baby, a brand new house. He had $500 left in his bank account. Finally just said, like, I need help. I don't know what I'm doing. I have this recruiting business. Ended up getting a coach, listen to what the coach said, keyword there, did the work. Another key thing, when you have a coach, you do actually have to do some work behind the scenes too, but finished the year at $800,000.
Wow.
Or I just had an episode drop today, and we did a literally like a full breakdown and analysis of how this recruiter had his best, like he said, plenty of like 200K months, plenty of 250K months, but he finally like broke through that 300K barrier for himself. Solo biller. So like we actually did a sat down and like we tore apart his month, like tore apart his phone time, tore apart his KPIs, tore apart his deals, tore apart all that stuff. And, just to like really just try to figure out like what maybe you can learn from that person that like, hey, take this little piece and add it to your desk. Maybe take that little piece and add it to the desk. Like that's what every single one of these podcast stories are. It's either a combination of encouragement or, you know what, maybe that one little piece of information can change a recruiter's desk or change a recruiter's life. Because I
Yeah.
remember, like, if you want a good laugh, my first agency job, they almost fired me like 2, 3 months in.
What did you do?
I couldn't close a deal. So I got pulled into an office, and the manager that pulled me in sat me down and was just like, nobody wants to work with you.
Oh God, that's a
You
bit
s-
harsh.
you just suck at recruiting.
Oh,
And
Remember
he's like,
those environments. Oh,
yeah. It's so horrible, isn't it?
the only reason why we haven't fired you is because you hit every single metric we tell you to do. So like the problem was like, I was a college athlete. You tell me to go, like I was a runner. Hey, you need to go run 10 miles. If your training schedule says go run 10 miles at like a 6:15 pace, I'll go run 10 miles at a 6:15 pace.
Mm.
Or you need to go do like, yeah, hit a 100-mile a week. Well, if my training schedule does that, I know that's what I needed to go do. So like in the recruiting chair, they said go make 75 calls. So I'd go make 85.
Mm.
I'd track it at the end of the day, and I'm like, I did my 85 calls. Like, I don't know what's happening. Like, why isn't it not working for me?
Mm.
So after that call, I actually went home, probably drank about 2 bottles of wine. Um,
There's a
Not the good stuff.
theme.
Yeah, there's a theme there. There's a theme there. Probably it's definitely not the good stuff. It wasn't a Bordeaux. It was when I couldn't afford anything else other than Yellowtail. And I don't think they still sell that anymore. And I was like, this sucks. Like, I don't know what to do. And like, the crazy part at that time too, like, I didn't even have a car. So like, my car was actually sitting in the parking lot of the recruiting agency because it was broken, and I didn't have the money to
Oh,
fix it.
oh,
So like, I'd walk a mile to the bus stop. I would like take the bus to work. I'd get there before everybody else, so that way nobody knew I didn't have a car. I'd leave after everybody else, so that way nobody knew I didn't have a car. And then
oh,
like, every time like someone would be like, "Oh yeah, how about you drive for lunch?" And I'm like, not today," or something like that. I'll just go with you guys.
no way.
But like the next day, so it must have been, or like, so every Wednesday that large staffing agency actually shot out the top 10 people of every single industry, the list. So I actually, like, during that lunchtime, I started calling down the list. I was like, hey, you're like number one. Like, do you mind if you give me 15 minutes at like after hours? I'd love to chat with you about what you're doing. Then I'd go to the next person. Hey, do you mind if you give me some time like next week during lunch? I'd love to kind of
Mm.
find out what you're doing. I just sit there and did that down the list. And then like there was like top billers in the office. Hey, do you mind if I take you out to lunch? And of
Mm.
course, they drove their car. I was like, yeah, like your car's a little nicer. Like I'll buy lunch.
Yeah.
But I started like, you know, there was no one magic bullet that I learned. It was the every single conversation that I took, I started, I'm like, well, that's not me. How can I take a little, like, how can I at least like imitate that? Now, I can't duplicate you because I'm not you, but how can I imitate that and make it me?
Mm.
And,
Yeah.
put in the work ethic too. Like, finally got another car, just to pay some bills and catch back up. I was delivering pizzas like 40 hours a week on top of like 60, 70 hours a week recruiting. But I just knew that I'm like, if I keep on putting in the work and I keep on trying to shift some stuff, I'll be able to make it. And fast forward probably a year down, I was like on the top of the boards,
Mm.
had some fun, but it was just like, I just wanted to be a recruiter. And so I ended up,
Yeah.
you know, and they were trying to beat me into becoming an account manager or moving across the country. I'm like, no, I'm happy here. Like I'm focused on government contracting. I actually started I was also my account manager started getting annoyed with me because I started after hours reaching out to all the other account managers in government contracting and working on their positions after hours. So that way I was just like, I'm building my book of business
Mm.
in the government contracting space because I know that this is where I plan on being for the rest of my career.
mm. I saw an interesting Alex Hormozy quote last week, and he said, "You can beat 99% of people just by working hard without the need for immediate reward."
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the things that why so many recruiting agencies, at least these big recruiting firms, really go try to find these college athletes because they're young, not all of them are smart, but they know how to put in the work
Mm.
and they know how to like, hey, here's the metrics. All right, cool, let's go. Let's go hit those numbers.
Mm.
Yeah, I
Mm.
remember I started working in my first contingent recruitment business after a few years out of university, and a friend of mine had gone straight into the military out of college, and he was coming out of the military, and he said, "I don't suppose like there's any jobs at the firm where you work is," and I said, "Well, I'm sure there is. They're always hiring. Like, let me go and speak to someone." And all of a sudden, I realised that it'd been rejected and not given an interview. So I went to speak to the managing director and said, like, "Why you're not even interviewing him?" He said, the problem with military personnel is that like they just do what they're told. So like if there's a pile of rubbish on the floor, like and someone says, "Can you pick that up?" They'll pick it up. But if not, they just wouldn't. And I'm like, that is the perfect delivery consultant. Like you just wind him up and tell him what to do,
Yeah.
and he will just do it to like
Who
150%.
was that? Who was that?
Who was
You
the
can't probably
person?
can't tell me. Yeah.
Or yeah. No, I can't. It's I was on the stag do with him last week.
Oh yeah. It wasn't one I
Okay.
knew.
No, it
No.
wasn't.
Oh,
No,
okay.
no, it was a good
Yeah.
friend of mine, and he is now absolutely smashing it.
Is he? Yeah.
I mean, that's like one of the crazy things about recruiting is like, no matter your background, whether you're an introvert, whether you're an extrovert, whether you're
Mm.
ADHD, whether you're really good with processes and following everything, there are ways for you to win. There are
Yeah.
ways for you to crush it. There are
Mm.
ways for you to figure out how you can win in this field.
Mm.
That's such a good point. I love that. I love that. What do you wish you'd known then that you know now?
My biggest regret, and this will probably lead into like something I'm doing a podcast interview next week, really just talking about this, about the inner dialogue that you have for yourself. So my biggest regret back then is not saying yes to sales training.
Why
So
wouldn't you say yes to sales training?
I enjoy the recruiting chair so much. I actually love the recruiting chair, and the way that this like large staffing agency is set up is everybody starts off as a recruiter. So you're
Right.
not doing any like you're not chasing any new work. You're not like sitting there cold calling into the businesses. Your job is to get the job from your account manager
Source.
and source and attack. Like I was still opening up I was still like actually opening up business, but it was just because of
Mm.
like I'd be on the phone. I'm like, oh yeah, okay, cool, yeah. You guys need some help over here? Cool, yeah. Like, yeah, let me get a contract over, and we'll start staffing you up. But it wasn't like me being forced to have to do it.
Mm.
And I can tell you why I left in a bit. It's because something that happened around there. But I truly think avoiding any sales training cost me a ton of money when I
Mm.
started my business.
Mm.
Because like sales is like like recruiting and sales should be the same muscle, but many recruiters, because of probably the way that most recruiters in the U.S. or don't start off as a 360 desk. It's
They
the,
don't,
the
did you say?
they don't.
Interesting.
So,
It's funny because
so
in the UK we do. Most of us
Most do.
start as
Yeah.
360.
which is why I think there's a reason why so many UK recruiters, when they make it across the pond, they just absolutely destroy it.
Yeah, they
It,
do.
it I think
Mm.
that goes into like the fundamental trainings of the entry of a recruiter over there versus a recruiter here in the U.S.
Wow.
Because in the U.S., many times, they like if you're a 360 recruiter, you become a big biller, you decide to walk away, there could be 70% of the company's revenue.
Mm.
If
No,
you're
I'm thinking back to when I started. I don't think I was ever taught how to recruit. Or I think
No,
I was
we're only
I,
taught how to sell. We're
well,
only
like
taught
just
how to
just
sell.
sell, and then you'll just figure the rest of it out.
Yeah,
yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like I said no to the sales training. I said no to account management because I love the recruiting chair so much.
Mm.
So once I actually started like off on my own, I had to start learning that sales development muscle. And it's a muscle that I still have to work on. Luckily a lot of the stuff, combination of like podcast content and people that know me, we have a lot of like inbound work that comes to us. But, when stuff slows down. I'm like, oh yeah, what's that muscle again? I feel like I need to like, I haven't gone for a run in the last few months, and now I might have to go do a quick half marathon.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, that's such a good analogy. Yeah,
But
it's
so
very good. Very
my
interesting.
my my biggest regret is not saying yes to the
Mm,
sales training.
mm.
But what they wanted me to do with the sales training is they were actually trying to move me across the country, and I'm like, no, 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 no. Like I chose this job because I wanted to be in this location. The next place I'm going to be, like I will choose where I'm going to go. So I was very like location, like I was trying to drive my career that I would end up into the DC metro within a decade.
Mm. And when you say, I mean, it's interesting what you say there about a lot of your work being inbound. You attributed that then to your podcast, people that you know. So your podcast does help drive,
A little bit, like
does
it
it?
does. So it's one of those things. I think it's the big like recruiters don't make content, like they really don't, and it's a mistake a lot of recruiters make.
Mm.
Like in the DC metro, there's 24,000 recruiters, combination agency, in-house, their own firms. There's 24,000 recruiters. I'm probably one of 10 that shows up online every single day.
Wow.
And most of it is because of the podcast.
Mm.
I also have like I put together like LinkedIn articles and I like talk about like other stuff. So I'm way more visible than all the other recruiters without doing it on purpose.
Mm.
But because of that, when somebody actually like, hey, we need some help, they're like, oh, I see that guy named Benjamin. He's online all the freaking time. Every time I'm on LinkedIn, he shows up in my feed.
Sounds like
Let's maybe
us.
let's reach out to him and have a chat.
Yeah, we have the same experience. What did Jordan say um to me? No, it wasn't you. It was a guy I
Customers say to me all the time, like, yeah, I see Lou more than my wife.
yeah, that's it. Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, sorry about
Oh my God, it's so bad. But it works, like you say, like it works. People just because people see you means they feel like you're familiar and they feel like, they gravitate towards you as a and so
And and we just had like I had a call last week that with a company that we didn't like what they did for their projects and how they bid them, but like what they actually told me is like, I've seen your podcast. I went and read a bunch of your articles. I went and checked this out, and like I know what you're doing. Okay, cool. Hey, let's chat.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. And there are more people realizing that, I think, now, but like you say, it's still a minority in the recruitment industry, I
I
think.
mean, the problem is like LinkedIn has changed. Like I'm one of the old dogs. I think it was like about 2 years ago. I'm like, I might as well suck it up, Buttercup, and change with the times. But I'm like, the amount of money recruiters have spent on LinkedIn, like we're the ones that have built the stupid platform. Like it should
Yeah,
be
we
catered
are.
to us. Like why? Like get off my lawn, guys. You content creator people.
Yeah. That's hilarious.
that.
That's so true. What's next for you, Ben? What's the future for you and your business?
So we're with everything happening with Doge, we're actually looking at um, kind of like maybe pivoting a little out of the area just in case until things pick back up. But also, uh, you're gonna love this, going higher up the food chain when it comes to deals.
Hmm. I do love that. What's the
So,
plan?
so like we've had, of course, a lot like inbound stuff coming at us, and people we with Doge. I think the challenge is trying to figure out what we can actually do and where we can go with it. But it's just like I talk to enough top billers. There's a secret when it comes to top billing: deal volume, deal size.
I completely agree. Yeah.
And there's many times the same amount of work that can happen for a small deal versus a big deal.
I would actually
Yeah.
argue often it's more work for the small deal than the big deal.
Yes, I agree. Yeah. And
And
and there are some big deals around still, even though we've seen some
What
massive
one of our members, Ben, just placed his biggest fee ever, 750,000 USD.
love that.
in one placement.
I absolutely love that.
It's fucking great, isn't it? I love it. I mean, we're lucky we've got a couple, probably two or three, maybe four in the group that are 500K, average sort of deal size, which is great, and they're good. They're really, really good. And
They
they
are really
open and
good, but do you
then,
know what the best thing is, Lou? They're just like they're normal people.
yeah, they're
Like you don't
open,
look at
they
them and go,
share.
yeah, but I could never do what they can do.
Mm,
Like they're really, really good.
and they're so nice. And
Oh, yeah.
actually, underneath it all, you're right. It isn't rocket science. We don't need to go and get a degree in anything to be able to do it. We can, with the right listening and learning and applying and consistency and
Mhm.
diligence and hard work, we can do it as well. And that's what I love about it the most.
I mean, it's one of those things like you sit there and talk to these big billers, and it's like, oh, it's mindset, 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 but nobody actually explains what the F mindset actually means. But like you've got I think it took me about a year of having like these podcast interviews, and like my mind's constantly blown. Like with some of these interviews, I got an episode coming up where a girl herself runs a $10 million staffing desk
Wow.
per year.
So maybe could you ask them, like, what does mindset mean? Can you do this on your podcast?
I've started like asking it, but one of the things I
Yeah.
started realizing is like one of the things mindset is just how you look at your business, how you look at your desk. Many of us, when we got into recruiting, like we were given like this is what your desk is going to be.
Mm,
We could do that, but what if we expand in another place? You know how many like directions and pivots were all just started from a conversation? We're like, why can't I call that person?
yes.
Why can't I do that?
Mm,
And you never know where a conversation can take your entire life. You never know where a placement can completely change. I joke around and I keep on talking about building like a 30-day challenge. Like you're one placement away from changing your life.
yeah. Yeah, I agree. And, I work with so many people that are a bit scared of, that level, whatever that level is. In fact, I've just had a call with Kelly. She won't mind me saying that 6 months ago when I first started working with her, I said, okay, so here's the plan. This is what we're going to do. We're going to identify these targets. This is how we're going to target them. This is what we're going to say. This is what, and she came up to me after a week and went, I just can't do it. I can't do it. I just don't know what to say to these people. And I broke it down and we sort of changed the approach slightly. And I've just met up with her and she said, I've won 4 projects with those people. And now I've been out for lunch with them. They're only humans. Why was I so scared? And she's like, I am absolutely away with this now. I can't believe I was so frightened of it before. Like you say, it's just sometimes just one little change of approach or a tactic that you hear from someone that can totally change. So why shouldn't, we be operating at the highest possible level that we're capable of operating at to make life as easy and as rewarding as we can?
Yeah.
When we talk about mindset, she just had that mindset shift, and
Yeah.
that made all the difference.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
did.
I often say the best thing that ever happened to me is playing golf when I was a kid.
Mm,
Because I was like a 13, 14-year-old boy that had to go and play golf at the club at the weekend with business owners, business leaders that were 40, 50, and you've got 4.5 hours and you've got to speak to them. You very quickly realize just normal people.
they're just normal people. It was the same for me, actually. My dad, especially my parents were kind of separating. And when he had to go to these corporate dues, the races, the horse race, or whatever, my mum never obviously wanted to go because they weren't. And so he used to take me, and I was like 14 years old or whatever, 15 years old, and I'd have to go, and it'd be all men, all businessmen, and all, CEOs and C-suite. And I'd have to spend all day at the bloody wherever we were, a
Yeah.
race day or a corporate exhibition. And you do learn, like, they just want to talk about normal stuff, really, and have a laugh and have a drink and like the rest of us. So, yeah, mindset's massive. And I look forward to hearing your grilling of all the people that are nailing it to find out exactly what their mindsets are so we can all learn. Um,
Oh, and let
yeah,
me
go
just say
on.
this. I got to say this. Like, I am a
Yeah.
huge proponent of AI. I love AI. AI is going to
Mm.
completely change the game in recruiting. And I think we're about 12 months away from some really crazy stuff. AI is actually killing your business right now.
Ooh, tell us.
I think there's too many people right now focusing on the next shiny object, and they're spending less time doing what they're supposed to be doing to
Mm.
win in recruiting.
Hmm. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I don't know. Well, probably.
I'm seeing it a lot where it's like, yes, test the tools, but if you're like you know that it takes you XYZ amount of calls or XYZ amount of emails. I'm seeing people slowing down, hoping
Mm,
that that AI is going to be that thing that like that silver
Mm.
bullet, which it's coming like it, but don't stop the work
yeah.
because when AI gets good, it's going to be the people that know the art of influence are going to be the ones that are going to be the winners.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What did Adrian say to us the other week in Australia? He said his view on AI was you either need to be doing that much and everything with AI that it's almost impossible you won't win, or you may as well wait, let everyone else see what works, and then just do it and just focus on what you're good at in the meantime.
Yeah, yeah, that's so good. Yeah, that's really good. I guess that's where I suppose it's helpful. I find, our group's helpful for this because I'll kind of watch the community and they'll say, has anybody used this? Has anybody used this? And what do you think of this? And what do you think? I let everyone out. And then I see recurring themes, over a period of months. It's like, yeah, this is really good. Yeah, this one's really, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to use that one. I'll wait for everyone to try everything out and then I'll
Yeah.
like Gamma's my latest one. That's fucking insane. It's so good.
Is it the
Um,
PowerPoint one?
yeah.
I use beautiful AI and I just love that.
Oh, is that the same as Gamma? Look
Oh,
at
It, it's
me.
see, look
Shiny
at you going
objects.
throwing a spanner in the works.
Oh, very good. Um, Tell us about your summits. What do you do with the summits and what's the objective of them?
I still need to figure out what the objectives are.
Hey,
Okay,
I'll do
so
that for you, Ben.
Yeah.
behind the scenes, if you want a good laugh, this is how the first summit like kind of put on. I was on a run, and I'm like, you know what? It'd be kind of fun to pull some of my the podcast guests together for a week and just have people learn. And I'm like, I'll make it free, and then if you want to replay, I'll charge like a little bit for the replays, and that's literally where the idea came from. And like
Mm,
every single one of the summits that I put on, I actually make them free for all the live sessions. And I think this summit this October that you guys are speaking at, there's going to be like 25 plus speakers. So it's like you can come learn what you want to learn for free. If you want the replays, cool, awesome. Like you can get the replays. There's like super small fee, but getting around other recruiters that are just absolutely crushing it, getting around trainers that are just like can give you those next steps, figuring out what trainer works for you, figuring out what style of recruiting works for you. I truly believe can make a huge difference. And I've seen people like come out of the summits and like completely change their desk, completely change their lives. People
mm,
that didn't pay for the summit, they just came
mm,
and like, figured out what talks they wanted to show up to, came, listened, implemented, got re-energized, and went back out.
mm,
And here's one of the things that you see in like a lot of the big firms. And like I don't know the big firms in the UK as much as I know the big firms in the United States, but they have quarterly or biannually sales conferences. And there's a
mm,
reason why they have them. Because every single time you get everybody together, you educate them, you motivate them, and then you get them out the door and
mm,
they're excited about their career again. And you
mm,
always see if you looked at their numbers within the 3 months after a sales conference, most of the numbers would be high. And then you start seeing this little bit of lag. And I normally have the conferences like every 3 months just for that behind the scenes purposes, because I know that's when many times a recruiter is just like, okay, the energy's coming back down.
yeah.
Let's bring the energy back up again.
Mm. Yeah, we do the same thing. We do the same thing in our group. We get together every quarter. Every other one is in person and spending 2 days learning from peers, learning new approaches, refreshing mindset, just shifts everything and then they go again. And, obviously ours is completely retained, focused. So what's your view on retained, by the way, Ben?
I think it's a smart place for you to be, and
Mm,
it's also one of the things that I've seen with the conversations that I've had. Retained doesn't have to be just executive search. Like when you think about retained, you're like, oh, it's the executive search firms, it's the big guys, they, doing X, Y, Z and making these like CEO placements. Because of the podcast, I've seen retained on director level roles. I've seen
yeah.
retained on engineering level roles.
Mm,
It's
yeah.
how you phrase the conversation and how you phrase the mindset going into the
Mm,
conversation. And I
mhm,
think one of the things that many of us recruiters have to have just because of the way the market's changing, we also have to be able to present multiple types of offers based on the company's needs.
Yes, of course.
And
Yeah, absolutely.
one of the mistakes I may always go back to my first like week of my recruiting business was I had a company call, like they're like, oh, you have your own business now? Can you help us? We need 6 contractors. And I got the call. I was like, ooh, awesome, new business. And then I realized I'm like, oh, wait, I can't afford a contractor on my desk. Of course, at that point in time, I didn't know about EORs. I didn't know about factoring. I didn't know about all that stuff. And I'm like, I don't have enough money in my bank account to be able to pay for these guys for a week, and let alone wait for a net 30 or a net 45.
Yeah.
But like, I think the modern recruiter, the modern recruiting company needs to have multiple offers in their back pocket, even though something is going to be the focus. Like if your
Yeah.
focus is going to be retained, awesome. What if you don't win every single deal? You have a contingent in your back pocket. Or what if they tell you like, you know what? I really don't want this retained deal right now, but I really just need like, I need 5 contract engineers. Guess what? You can call up an EOR. Literally just say, I can actually do that. Have an EOR behind the scenes, take care of all the things behind the scenes. All right, cool. Hey, I just got you your 6 contract engineers. When they do a good job, you're now deeper in the company. You're now deeper in the relationship. So when that other retained opportunity pops in, guess who they're going to think of? You.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, lovely. Ben, it's been a pleasure.
You
Thank
can come on
you.
again, Ben, if you want.
You can come on again. It's easy.
Well, thank you
We
guys.
will definitely have you back. So please collect all the mindset stuff, and we'd love you to share it with our audience too. Where can people connect about the summit, first of all? What is it? How do they get involved?
Feel free to actually just shoot me a message on LinkedIn. I heard about the
Cool.
summit. Love to register. I normally don't really start promoting it until like later on in the summer, like, going into it. But we have coming up in September, we have the AI Summit, which is free to go to, just like the Finish Year Strong. And then October is going to be Finish Year Strong, and then in December we're actually doing a Firm Owners Summit. So that's going to be something new, but that's not quite the
Right.
focus yet. So I haven't like really started talking about that one. So, but hit me up on LinkedIn, podcast, the Elite Recruiter Podcast. Make sure to go find your episode first to listen to if you're going to listen to it.
Yeah, if you're interested in retain, then we give loads away. I gave loads away, didn't I, in that episode? Loads of help, loads of tips. Yeah, definitely. So they can find you, Benjamin Mena, on LinkedIn or the Elite Recruiter podcast.
I'd say those are the 2 places I live the most.
Well, Ben, thank you so much for joining
Thank you, Ben.
us. It's been an absolute pleasure. We'll see you very soon.
Yep. See you guys. Thank you guys so much for the invite. For the recruiters that are listening out there, I want you guys to understand the value that you could bring to the table. And like, you guys are some of the best teachers in the business when it comes to the retained work and the retained mindset,
Yeah.
how to get those fees. Actually, I had you on as like for one of the summit speakers, and then just chatting with some like my friends that are in the retained search. It's like, hey, just checking. Who's the best in the business when it comes to teaching this? And got you guys. They came back and I was like, oh yeah. I was like, okay, cool. I already have them in my pocket. Like I already got them going for another session. So like good to
Up them
go.
in
Just
my pocket.
Thanks, Ben.
Oh, thank you, Ben. You're very kind. You say all the right things. Lovely to see you. Thanks again. We'll see you so soon. Thanks for
see you
listening,
soon.
everyone.
See you guys.
Well, that's another episode of Retrained Search, the podcast in the bag. Thanks for listening to our wild tales, LinkedIn controversies, and our top tips on how to sell and deliver retained search. Get involved in our next episode. Send in your questions and share your experiences with us by emailing podcast@retrainedsearch.com. And don't be shy. Connect with us on LinkedIn and come and say hi. We don't bite. Unless you're a Shrek firm, that is. We want to say a special thank you to our Retrained members for sharing what's working for them right now and innovating new ways to grow and evolve. It's an incredible community. If you're wondering what exactly we mean when we mention our communities, well, we have 2 separate programs. Our Search Foundations program is for recruiters who want to learn how to sell and deliver retained search solutions consistently. And we have our Search Mastery program. That's for business leaders or owners already at 50% retained or more and looking to scale and grow and structure their search firm. We cap memberships to these programs to protect the integrity of the community. If you want access, just talk to us. Okay, thanks for listening. We'll be back very soon with another episode of Retrained Search, the podcast.